So welcome everybody to our session with Afterpay. And we're so excited to have Katie Pridham with us today. I know that you can't turn on the internet. Almost every shopping site I see Afterpay option. And I'm excited to learn more about it. But what Afterpay is they're the leading global buy now, pay later service. So what does that mean? You pay as you go along the way. 4 payments, no interest. You get it when you see it. How could that be better? I mean, I'm excited about it. I wish it was on a few sites that I would like to shop on. Maybe we can talk about that, Katie. But importantly today, what we're going to talk about is how millennials are changing the way that people shop. They're changing the rules of spending. They're changing how they pay for things. And what we're going to learn about is the size of the market and how you can use the tool to help increase your business and sales and engage with a customer that wants to engage with you. So we're going to do this a little differently today. If you have any questions, I'm going to encourage you to put them into the chat and or send them to me directly. I'll put my email into the chat and we're going to assemble all of those answers. And when we send you the follow-up, we'll make sure that the answers are included. So with that, Katie, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen. It's so exciting to be here and to talk with all of you today. I'm going to quickly share my screen so we can get started. Today, we're going to cover a few main topics. First, why are payments changing? How is this next generation of consumers changing the way we pay? Next, how big of shift will this really be? And what can you do to actually meet this new payment preference? So first, getting started, why are payments changing and how are they changing? What we've seen over the past 10 years is that there's been a decline in credit. We see this largely as a result of the great financial crisis, knowing that millennials came of age during this time. It also made a real big impact on their financial decision over these 10 years. What you'll see here in this graph is that there's been a real big shift over the 10 years away from credit cards. There's a clear aversion to this because of the financial risk implicated, especially with lifestyle purchases, debit cards, or even spending the money that they have steadily becomes more available. We're seeing this trend with traditional credit companies in the US as well. In fact, according to Visa, in the US debit card dollar payment and purchase volume, it rose 23% year over year, and more than double pre-COVID rate. In that same measure, credit cards were down 8%. And since COVID, we've seen these shifts only accelerate. The share of online credit card purchases are expected to decrease from 40% in 2018 to 30% by 2023. And the buy now, pay later industry is growing rapidly. What we see from a small base is that it accounts of more than 1% of online sales, but it's only about to grow. All of this has given a rise to this alternate form of payment, one that takes the benefits of credit and paying over time, while extracts the downside of revolving interest. If you zoom into 2020, the benefits of paying over time without interest saw a really sharp increase in buy now, pay later adoption. If you look at the period immediately following COVID-19, our research shows that there's been a sharp increase in buy now, pay later adoption. In fact, that's up 180% for the year, while credit card purchases have steadily declined down by 5%. But this is not just a short-term trend. We see this as a very long-term trend and an outcome of the recent occurrence of COVID-19. Buy now, pay later will become the future of shopping. And we see this. In fact, experts at Bank of America predict that buy now, pay later marketing will grow 10 to 15x in the years following the pandemic. So why? Why are we seeing this massive adoption? The reason being, and why it's becoming so popular, is because credit is becoming less popular because of the burden it puts on customers. And buy now, pay later frees this customer and this consumer of the burden of this high interest credit. It's clear that removing the burden of revolving debt has been a popular business model for credit cards as becoming more popular for consumers. And if you look at all types of credit, buy now, pay later has the least burden on the consumer compared to all other forms of credit. This is why it is so attractive to this generation that wants that flexibility and wants to move away from debt. So why Afterpay, and why have we seen such incredible scale and such incredible adoption? We're not like the traditional credit industry. Our vision and our mission and our values and our core principles are purposefully different, and they remain consistent. We don't rely on our customers to revolve in debt and make money to survive. Instead, we trust the next generation. We don't do credit checks. There's never any interest, no hidden fees. We put the customer first. We give this next generation of shoppers a better way to pay and allow them to buy now, pay later, but always being interest-free. Our model really stops that shoppers from racking up these high levels of debt. So how does buy now, pay later, and how does Afterpay work? Customers use Afterpay to pay for their purchase in 4 installments over time. As I mentioned, always interest-free. So here's how a $100 purchase could look like for the customer. $25 are due today at the time of purchase, and then every 2 weeks, the customer will make another $25 purchase. Our model is always interest-free, and this approach is always better because it puts the customer first. When you compare sources of revenue to all buy now, pay later providers and the credit cards, you can see from how much revenue is generated from the customer in the way of interest, penalties across all of these payment types. Afterpay is a revolutionary concept because we create less of a financial impact on the customer. We remove the burden across the board, which, as you saw previously, is really important for this customer. And a better way to pay also means a better way to determine creditworthiness too. So what we've seen is that it's not just a concept of interest that we've revolutionized on behalf of the customers. It's also how we deem credit worthiness. So what we've actually seen is that 1 in 5 Americans actually have frozen access to their personal credit file, preventing it being accessed from credit bureaus. With Afterpay, it offers a simple and transparent option for people to access low credit risk. New customers start with low limits. With on-time behavior, it increases their spending limits. There are no external credit checks, and around half of our customers don't even have a significant credit file. So our incentives are really thinking about the customer. How do we become customer first? How do we ensure that the customer is a better customer financially, and we're putting them first? Many customers perform badly with a traditional credit. And with Afterpay, we're really focused on creating a product that puts the customer first and really is about financial wellness. And when we do so, when we think about the customer, when we think about flexibility and offering the customer flexibility, it actually pays off for our merchant partners and our retailers. When you remove the financial burden of interest or revolving debt or that fear for customers and this next generation of customers, retailers see stronger results. So what you can anticipate from working with buy now, pay later or with Afterpay is that you're going to see more customers. Merchants see on average about 30% new customers because of Afterpay. That's because we're providing a solution or a tool that really understands this next generation of customers. And so you'll not only see you'll have access to more customers, but you'll be able to convert those customers as well. So you'll also see higher conversion. Our partners see a 22% increase in cart conversion on average and more repeat customers. So you're not only going to see more customers, you're going to see higher conversion, you're also going to see purchase frequency increase. They're going to be able to have this flexibility and build this relationship with your brand because you understand the way they want to pay. And thus, you're going to see increased purchase frequency. You're also going to see higher average order value. Afterpay really looks to maximize customer purchasing. So increasing the average order value up by 40%. They're able to buy more but pay over time. And what you're also able to see is fewer returns. On average, our merchant partners see close to 18% reduction of returns. And there's less of that buyer's remorse because you're paying in smaller increments over time. And this really pays off in the accessories category. So how it can actually impact your specific business is that, as I mentioned, we see about 18% decrease in returns. We see 50% increase in average order value within this category. We see upwards of 30% increase to new to file customers. We see double the amount of increase in units per transaction. And we see purchase frequency happen on a merchant and retail level. So they're spending more with you on average 30% more each time. And this is really not just about Afterpay. It's about the new wave of consumerism, and it's the new wave of retail. We've realized the importance of businesses to really support the customer and really support financial wellness. In fact, 90% of Afterpay shoppers say that financial wellness is important to them, but yet only 42% consider them financially literate. So where can a retailer, where can a brand play a role? Well, when money is a stressor, shopping becomes less enjoyable. It becomes less attainable. And so while retailers or businesses may not be able to alleviate their customers' financial concerns, they can support them. And they can support them by offering them flexibility. They can support them by offering the ability to help customers pay in a way that they want to be able to pay and to help their purchasing decisions. You can meet your customers where they are, making it really more flexible, and more importantly, giving the customer the freedom of choice. 71% of Afterpay shoppers say that flexibility is important to them. So we really believe that at the core of everything that we do, and at the core of this next generation, financial wellness is the future of retail. And this next generation is different. These shoppers are fueling Afterpay's growth. 25% of Afterpay sales is being driven by Gen Z, and 41% of our sales is being driven by Millennials. And our shoppers are unduplicated and have low crossover with other providers in the space. This is an incredibly loyal consumer base. In fact, 91% of Afterpay shoppers have never shopped with a firm, and close to 80% of our shoppers have never shopped with Klarna. So when we look at this shift and when we look at this next generation of consumers, how big will this shift really be? Well, millennials and younger generations are already outnumbering older generations by the total population in the US. Millennial and Gen Z share of spend will increase by 48% in 2030. In fact, this is the powerful force of the economy. According to our data, that in 2020, Gen Z and millennials represent 32% of the total retail spend in the US. And to know that share of spend is going to increase by 48%, it's really, really important to understand, how do we connect with them? How do we understand them? How do we allow them to be the front and center of our strategy, to learn and how to grow with them? And what we know is that this generation's spending, and as their power grows, they're going to look at buy now, pay later as a primary form of payment. Millennials and Gen Z, their peak earnings years are still to come. And so if we look at that projections and we know they want to use buy now, pay later, it's a really important piece to look at as part of your business strategy. Spending by millennials, interestingly enough, has a big toll on COVID, right? So we looked at what has happened over the past year, and COVID took a heavy toll on consumer spending. But spending by millennials have recovered really fast. In fact, levels of spending is only 9% below pre-COVID spending levels, whereas the older generation of consumers have been more conservative with their spending, and it's going to take a while to get back up to their spending power. And if you're looking at buy now, pay later specifically, this spending on buy now, pay later has increased across all generations, especially for Gen Z. Their spending is up 201% for the year. And that is looking at this new generation and also their payment method. So today, millennials account for the majority of spending on Afterpay. The average age is in their early 20s. However, as I mentioned before, Gen Z is the fastest growing cohort with 326% growth from January 2020. So we know that this next generation of Gen Z and millennials account for the majority of spending on Afterpay. And together, they make up 65% of our total global customer base. So it's really interesting to see that this growth is not only exponentially growing, it's just beginning to also grow. And what we look at for Gen Z and millennials is that the majority of consumer spend is on fashion. So fashion dominates the consumer spend, accounting for 67% of Gen Z and 57% of millennials. Footwear is the next largest category. Footwear purchases make up close to 20% of Gen Z and about 21% of millennial spending within the category. But what we're also seeing is that categories such as wellness and home have been growing really fast, while people have been home and they're focusing on themselves and their surroundings. Younger generations are really supporting small businesses too through buy now, pay later. In fact, 2/3 of all spend on small businesses is from millennials and Gen Z. And younger Americans have been spending more over time to support small businesses. It's up 140% for Gen Z and millennials in 2020. So what can you do as a brand to meet this new payment preferences now and in the future? First, the financial well-being of your customers matters. So really understanding them, putting them first. We really look at 2021 being the year that retailers play a big role in supporting smart and fair spending. So it's really about giving more options and more flexibility to your customers. It's the reason why Afterpay is seeing such exponential growth, being always interest-free, never doing any credit checks, never asking for your social security number for sign up, never reporting to credit bureaus, being transparent with spending limits, and always rewarding for responsible spending. But it's not just about the checkout, and it's not just about the payment option. How your shoppers pay can't just live out checkout. In fact, how do you create a story? How do you create a relationship with this customer to ensure that you leverage your payment options at every stage of the customer acquisition journey? So how might you use your email? How might you use your social, your PDP, your checkout, the top of the funnel and the bottom of the funnel to really connect with this consumer? In our research and with all of the partners we work with, Afterpay retailers report that when you look at a 360-degree go-to-market strategy, there's a 65% lift in AOV in the first week when you really think about using Afterpay as a marketing vehicle and really telling the story to ensure that you're showing that customers that you're offering that flexibility of payment type. And our merchants are experiencing even more benefits, especially when you're looking at an omni-channel perspective. If you can look at payments as another way to meet your omni-channel future. So you're not just allowing customers flexibility to buy online, you're allowing them to shop in store as well. With Afterpay, we have one seamless integrated account. And with Afterpay, our omni-channel shoppers shop 48% more than just our shoppers online. And our omni-channel shoppers spend 72% more than just online shoppers. So this omni-channel customer is a really important customer to think about. I'd love to continue the conversation and happy to answer any questions that you might have about the learnings that we have about the macro and micro insights on millennials and Gen Z consumers and the future of payments. Thank you so much, Karen, for having me and the Accessories Council. It was such a great afternoon with you.
Thank you, everyone, for listening in. So what I'm going to encourage you to do, I put my email into the chat. You can email me the questions, and we'll get them over to the team at Afterpay, and we'll have them follow up, and we'll send that out to everyone very shortly. I find the statistics absolutely fascinating, and really appreciate your time and sharing and insights today. And we'll look forward to learning more and following up very soon.
Thank you so much, Karen.
Take care. Have a good afternoon, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.